Hey guys, thanks for joining me again here for another Flintknapping Friday. We're going to put together a really simple little job right there. A little Madison or a Pinellas, wherever, but it's a Mississippian era true arrow point. Actually, this is a little bit kind of a big one. We'll make it out of just these little debitage flakes. This happens to be some Jasper that I picked up in Alabama quite a while back, and you also find a lot of these little points in that same area of Alabama. So we're going to take some flakes just like this one here and turn it into a point just like that one. Hey folks, Brian Gill here with Hunt Primitive, where we entertain, educate, and inspire. And this is our new series, Flintknapping Friday, where we're working hard to get you where you want to be in your own flintknapping journey. We're going to be breaking different rocks into different styles of points and blades and using different tools for those different jobs. And so there's going to be something for everybody and something different in every single episode. The very last thing I want to mention before we start on the project is, if this is your first time with the channel or your first time flint napping, before you watch this video, I highly recommend the Flint Napping for Beginners video, which I'll link down in the description. I'll show you these little flakes that we're starting with. So really just kind of like debitage flakes, and so we're using Tuscaloosa gravel per se. It's part of, I guess, part of the Fort Payne formation, similar to Buffalo River, and you typically find them in these cobbles, and a lot of times they're more of like a yellow color, and then because it's a Jasper essentially, I guess, and when you heat treat them they turn red, like these ones here. Now these ones, actually I heat treated these a long time ago, and I've kind of been through a whole bunch of them. And so some of the ones I got here are a little bit, this one's got a little bit of slickness to it. It's pretty good. Some of them probably aren't heat treated enough, and then the quality's a little different too. But I just have a little bit of this stuff left. I gathered it, shoot, I bet you 15 plus years ago. I went and collected a box of creek cobbles when I was hanging out with my buddy Dax, and we were, I don't know if we were turkey hunting or deer hunting, I don't know, but we went down to the creek and got some. So anyway, these are just debitage flakes left over, and these are absolutely perfect to make the little arrowheads from, because you're not starting with a big rock, and a lot of this debitage was picked up, you know, off the ground for, you know, hundreds, even a couple thousand years from previous people flint napping, and then these could be turned into little arrowheads. And they're, you know, true arrowheads are real small little pieces, and this is like a Mississippian time of an arrowhead that we're going to be making, which is really just a triangle. So like Mississippi and triangle points, and then there's different names for them, like Madisons, and then even Hamiltons in some areas. Down in Florida they call them Pinellas points. But really, at the end of the day, what you're going to see is we just have like little triangles that they're not even notched, and they just glue right into the end of your arrow, and their arrows wrapped with sinew to reinforce it. But these are easy in, easy out, and you can make a whole bunch of them in a really short amount of time. Now we're going to make them with antler tools, and we're slowing down the process teaching, so it's going to take a lot longer. But typically, you know, some of these points, if you get some really fortuitously shaped flakes that don't need much work at all, some of these are a little bit bigger, this one's kind of a good small one, you're almost crushing them into shape, and you can just make them really, really fast. So you could have 5 to 10 minutes per point, and on up to, you know, obviously we're going to be a little bit longer today because we're walking you through what we're doing, but it still should be considerably faster than our normal videos. And I think we're going to work with this one. It's kind of calling to me. It's got a little bit of some troubled areas to work through, and maybe it wouldn't be the fastest one to make, but it's got that nice sheen to it from the heat treat. So I don't know, I just want to use that one. So if we break it, we'll grab another one. But that's what we're up to. And then also, because people ask about that all the time, about getting little flakes like this, well, because we go through so much rock at Hunt Primitive, actually I save all of that stuff. So I've got like these boxes that are just full, and so they're on the website. There's, I don't know, there's probably 30 to 50 arrowheads in each of these boxes by the time you nap them all out, because we just keep saving all the debitage flakes. And because I know everybody loves them for arrowheads, so we end up selling actually quite a few of those. So we do have them if you're just wanting to make little arrowheads, because that's what they're just perfect for. So anyway, with all that being said, let's get all that stuff out of the way. I'm going to start off with my larger larger tine that you've probably seen me use here, that I use it more as like a brush grind, and it sharpens the tip of it as I go. So you might as well get a good look. See, so I use the tip for real fine pressure work when I need it, but typically when I'm abrading or crushing or brushing, I'm going to use that side because I'm constantly sharpening it as I'm working, as opposed to just constantly blunting the tool. And this really is a game of just start crushing material off about as fast as you can, because they are just thin flakes. And I'm working at setting up actually a platform for this little bit of trashy stuff, which isn't that big of a deal, but you can see that there's just some stuff going on. So I'm setting up a platform so I can just run a couple flakes across there really quick and then thin this whole piece. And there's no sense in really overcomplicating these. It's a lot of crushing and then building a couple platforms, and then if we break it, we break it. It's a little flake of rock. It's not a big deal. So we can be very aggressive with it. And if you're going to break it, I'd rather see you break it in the first 5 minutes than spend a half an hour on it going slow and then breaking it. Okay, so yeah, we got all kinds of stuff going on with this one. It's kind of, the whole thing's kind of curled a little bit, but all I did was I crushed everything back, and I've made this tip now really thick so I can just jump on different platforms with the indirect stick. And we're going to clean this thing up really, really fast, or we're going to break it. One of the two. So that's how that's going to roll. And then that's the, mine's starting to get a little bit shorter now, but because I've certainly used it a lot. But that's that long axis antler tine that I like to use for indirect percussion. Really, really good tools. And there's like a hole. There's like a little pocket. I see it right there. Right at the tip. So I'm a little bit worried that we're actually going to break, because I can either see daylight or crystals. I think they're just little crystals down in there. I'm just hoping the point doesn't snap right there, but like I said, if I'm going to snap it, I'd rather snap it now than in a while. So we're just kind of mass reducing about as fast as we can. Because the idea is you could sit and make a whole bunch of these points, right? And you could have a little bag of these points, and you don't have to undo the sinew wrappings every time you put one of these on. They're just glued in the end of the arrow. So you can like have a bag of like 30 or 50 of these things, and you could make 30 or 50 of these points really in just a couple days. And so early people would be able to just stockpile these things, and you just use them to shoot at everything. You shoot small game with them, you shoot big game with them. I've killed multiple rabbits with them, but then I've also killed 2 hogs, I think, with just these little Madison style points. I think 2 is all, but 2, hogs is good shooting. I mean, you can kill bison with them too. I mean, everything you want to hunt. And then that's why it's handy. You could shoot them at birds or rabbits or anything you want. And then at the end of the day, you just come back, and when you're around your campfire, if you lost a point, then you just heat up a little pitch smeared in the hafting groove or hafting notch, and stick a new one in, smooth it up with the pitch, and you're ready to go tomorrow. So you don't have to re-haft everything with the sinew. And that's what makes them just disposable little arrowheads. Okay, getting pretty close to grinding again. See, I like doing the indirect, especially like this, where it's just light work, because it saves on a lot of wear and tear on my elbow from the pressure flaking, grinding, and twisting. So if you've got like tendonitis problems and you nap as long as I have, your arm starts to really, really pay a price. And indirect percussion decreases that tendonitis significantly. So even though there's times here I don't have to use it, I'm doing it because it doesn't have much wear and tear on my body. Alright, so I think we really clean that up now, and all I'm going to do is continue to crush it into shape. And as I'm crushing it into shape, I'm just exposing those new platforms. So to me, it's not necessarily a race to see how fast I can get them done. I'd rather just sit down and hang out by a fire on a cool day, or sit out in the sun on a warm day and just make a whole bunch of these from a hunting kit. Be an easy pastime if you're an early man. There's probably a lot of women that sat around. Men were out hunting, and when women's other work was done, I wouldn't be surprised that they sat around and just pressure flaked out a whole bunch of these little points, and husbands came home and they'd say, "Here you go, I made you a whole bunch of new ones." That'd be handy, wouldn't it? No, they've definitely excavated burial sites, women that have been buried with flint-knapping tools. So I know there was definitely quite a few women that were flint-knapping. Not sure if they did all of it or most of it or just some of it, but they were definitely doing it. All right, kind of back at the same deal, just I exposed those platforms. So this wasn't the most ideal flake to use. Like I said, it had some thicker spots. You might just find a little flake that's already just, all you really have to do is crush it. But if I was just crushing it into a shape, then there wouldn't be a lot to show you. There we go, nice flake across that. So almost there. So it's really setting up just setting up those platforms while I've been crushing it with the flaker. We're getting pretty darn close to it now, to where we're not going to have a lot more platforms to strike. Ooh, gotta be careful. I may end up breaking this in half. I can feel it getting thin in that one spot. There we go. Got what I was looking for. Never mind. I thought I step fractured it right there, right in the middle of the dang base of the point, but I did not. It came off. It just stuck. There, I got what I was looking for. Had just a little high spot there. All right, we'll go back to crushing a little bit. See how pretty quick overall. We start to take shape quite nicely. It's a pretty little piece of rock, little red jasper. Been thinking about even just offering these little triangles on the website as well. A couple people have asked, and I did offer them. I mean, it's been a few years ago now, but I was just putting up just little triangles, and then it's like I don't think people got it, because then they were like, well, I really like these ones, can you notch them? And it's like, well, that's what the other arrowheads we sell are for, you know. And I was like, yeah, just go buy those. And people weren't really buying these. They wanted to buy ones that had notches, and so I kind of stopped carrying them. But I've got a whole bunch of little small ones made up already, so I may put them up on the website again and give it a try. So maybe by the time you're watching this, they'll be up there. But I don't know. Always just trying to fulfill whatever it is anybody wants, whether it's the rock or tools or the points or whatnot, because never fails if I don't offer something, somebody asks. So I might as well. There we go. I know I gave my buddy Vastin, when we were out doing a lot of hog hunting, especially him, he was helping me out a tremendous amount with hog hunting for the book, The Secrets and Science of Primitive Archery. So all the data, out of the data sheets, there was a lot of, you know, stuff this size. Some of it, you know, had notches and some of it didn't, but he was out just shooting hogs left and right that were overpopulated on his ranch and really collecting a lot of data for the book. And we were using some really small points, even much smaller than this. I mean, down to just like that size, really small stuff, size of your fingernail. And it was amazing how fast that even just those little teeny tiny points were killing hogs. I mean, they'd run 20 yards and then tip over dead. So the only reason that this one's as big as it is just because we started with a little bit larger of a flake. But that's, otherwise I wouldn't have any problem shooting ones that are smaller yet than this. So we're really getting down to about the shape and size we're after. So now I'm using the tip of my flaker to actually drive. You can hear a little harder flake, so I'm not grinding as much. Actually just trying to run flakes up into center a little bit, thin it and sharpen that edge just a little bit. Clean that base up. I mean, these aren't supposed to be little works of art, remember. Little disposable arrowheads to just absolutely shoot at everything, but still want to do a nice job on them. I mean, really, if we just sharpened this and as is and shot it, I think we would be just fine, but we'll clean it up just a little bit more for you. Not very much. Thin it out just a tad yet. That tip's gonna give us a little bit of trouble. I may have to switch to a smaller flaker. Here we go. And actually there's a pretty good chapter on these as well in that book. If you guys don't have that book, I really recommend it. And it's not, we got the PDF too, which is cheaper. It's not about making the money on the book. It's to, that's why the book's, for what it is, let me show it to you. This is a hardcover. There's a tremendous amount of knowledge in here, and it's 30 bucks shipped, okay? So what you're going to get out of that is a tremendous amount of information. You get 400 and some pages, 420 pages at it, and I'll just show you here a little bit, a couple ideas. There's data sheets just on bows and arrows and their performance. There's a little bit of everything in here. Everything from the bows to the arrows to the points, and just more data sheets. And then a lot of work with strings as well. And this one spot that I'm specifically looking for to share with you. It's what I wanted, more data sheets. We've got a ton of information. There's maps in there as well. It's not exactly what I'm looking for yet. Give me 1 second. Almost there. Hang with me and we'll get back to it. Here they are. So these are the data sheets here. And we've got, I don't know, 20 or so pages of these things. So every one of these sheets is either a deer or a hog that either Vastin or myself shot. And then we've got all the data with the size of the arrowhead, the speed that the bow shoots a particular weight arrow, where the animal was hit, how far that it went. If you're into primitive archery and primitive hunting and all that stuff, that's really, really going to be an important one for you. And I was trying to think, it's going to be hunting with small points, 227. I think that's where I specifically talk about these. Yep, right there. These little triangle, Mississippian triangle points. That's exactly what I'm making right now. Out of that, and that's a handful of the same stuff. Same Jasper I used. So, anyway, check that out if you're interested. But we'll get back to just finishing this little piece out. And finish grinding this into shape really fast. Couple more thinning flakes. Can hear the garbage men are coming. Okay, and so what I'm doing is not only am I grinding that edge a little bit, I'm still raising that platform up and I'm shoving it to this side so I can turn it over and just run a couple more thinning flakes. It probably doesn't absolutely need them, but I'm always under the practice of, if I can make it better, I'm going to make it better. Because that might be the difference in really getting that little extra penetration maybe I need. Maybe it's the difference between a kill or a no kill. And if it takes me an extra 5 minutes to make one just a little bit better, I would rather have that confidence when I head into the hunt, knowing that I've got good points on the ends of my arrows. And sometimes it's just a little OCD as well, but I much prefer to be a little better prepared. Have just all that confidence. So I'm going to use my little tiny flaker now. And you'll notice I don't use my tiny flaker for much unless it's tiny work or edge prep. And the reason is because the more that you work these back, the softer the antler gets. So the antler is its toughest right out at the very tip. And that's what removes the best flakes. And then you'll also notice I still treat it the same way. So if I do have to do like a little bit of grinding, I don't mind doing a little bit of grinding, but it's got to be with the side because I'm trying to sharpen this as I work. But if you use your little flaker all the time for just all your normal flake removal, you're going to wear it down really, really fast. That's what the big one's for. So the more you use this, the more you're going to deplete that little tip that really is going to give you those nice hard flakes that you're going to need for sharpening. Much easier to sharpen with this tool than it is with that big one. I can promise you that. The big one grinds them into shape. Little tool is going to actually make them sharp. Okay, so there's that. We knocked that out really, really fast, right? So we'll just sharpen it up now, and that's really it. And that's the beauty of it. There's no notches, there's nothing. It literally just glues into the end of the arrow, and then you just go out and shoot stuff with it, and then it runs over and it dies, and you pick it up and you eat it. And that's about as simple as that gets. Really quick and easy. And so not much of it. Got a little bit of an edge on there because we were already using this, and this is a little bit dull. I hate to have to stop to sharpen it. I probably should, but I'm just going to try to use a little tiny corner to sharpen. Actually, you know what? While garbage men are here making a whole bunch of noise, I'm going to take a flake of rock and I'm going to sit and just sharpen this. And that's how you're going to sharpen. You can grind them too, but when early man was sharpening their tools, grinding it on your hammerstone or something like that, it doesn't remove as much material as you think. And actually taking a flake, that removes the material a lot better, in my opinion. So when I work antler or bone or even wood, I don't do as much grinding as I used to. The grinding sometimes just to finish like a polisher, or to finish, you know, to maybe take off like a weird spot that I keep hanging up on. But for the most part, sharpening is always done with a flake for me. Alright, we got just another couple minutes, so I'll fast forward. There's no sense in you sitting and watching me sharpen this thing for another 5 minutes. But alright, we got it sharpened up pretty nice. Now, one of the other things I want to make sure I mention on this is if you use that tip straight away and it's got a really sharp tip on it, you're probably going to snap the tip, and then you're actually going to kind of set yourself back. So that's when I will take my hammerstone, and it's like I'm not really blunting it, but I'm making, it's kind of like just abrading the tip of your antler. If you deaden those little edges that might be sharp, you're less likely to actually flake your antler. Because if you flake your antler, like I said, it's going to set you back and you have to grind it more. So I'm not trying to grind it flat. I'm more or less, like I said, abrading the tip of my flaker. So now, first couple ones, you're going to be careful, because very good chance that you may end up nipping the tip right off. And so I'll start at the tip, and I just want to do a little bit of fine work until I see kind of how much abuse that new edge is going to take. But then also, as we use it a little bit, it'll stiffen up. Perfect. Very light touch. See, you notice I don't have to drive big flakes. I'm just taking that nice little sharp edge that we just made, and I'm grabbing onto those little flakes, and I'm pushing in and I'm rolling down, and then even as I'm rolling down, I'm actually hooking back, and all in kind of one motion. It's like a little bit of like, this is over exaggerated, would be like me pushing and rolling, and then I'm pushing back this way, and that's what's giving me that really sharp edge that I use on my arrowheads. And of course, I've got a whole video on that too. If you're not familiar with that, I've got a whole video on sharpening arrowheads. So you can probably get some old videos, and then I got a newer one as well. But the process is really about the same. But if you just looked up Hunt Primitive sharpening stone points or something like that, I'm sure they'll pop up. It's pretty easy to find that stuff. Anything you search for, if you stick Hunt Primitive in front of it, it should pop up the specific videos I'm talking about. So there we go, just nice little flake removal. Nothing worse than going out and hunting with a dull point. So I'm just putting these little scary sharp serrations on it, like I do, where I go up one side and then down the other. When I come back on the second row, well, that's nice and sharp there. When I come back and I do the second row, a lot of times I'm not doing the roll and the hook, because it's, unless I have like a big, like if I have a big platform, I can put that pressure. But typically all I'm doing is I'm coming back and I'm cleaning up the serrations that I already like really drove in, hooked and pulled, and created that sharp edge. Then as I flip it over, all I'm really doing is just dressing up the little tips. And that's just about it. Got maybe one more right there. There, we got it. And then I'm going to use the side of my flaker and just lightly grind that tip. We got a couple more little tiny flakes to take off of that, nothing major. There we go. Couple little flakes there to tip. Like my tips, like kind of like a needle sharp, where they, if you push just a little hard, you think they might pop in. We'll take just a really quick break to mention, so when people ask where to get this stuff at, you can get rock and tools and combo kits, anything that you'd need for flint knapping at huntprimitive.com, which we'll put a link down in the description. And it doesn't matter if you get from us or you get from somewhere else. That doesn't really matter. What the really important thing is that you're putting your hands on some tools and on some rock, and you're getting to work making some stuff and having a ton of fun. Come on, I got one little spot that's just a hang up there and I don't like it, but it's not too bad. That tip work is really important to me. That's what goes in and, you know, kind of pops the balloon. It gets you access into those organs. So you really want your tip to be really nice and sharp tip geometry. You don't want it to come and round off, and then you don't want a bunch of junk up at the tip that's going to stop it from penetrating. Really sharp tips make a big difference for penetration. Yes, they break off easier, but I don't care if they break off easy, because once they've gained air, I got it. That one little piece that was driving me nuts. Run the risk of snapping the whole tip off when I do that. But I don't care if the tip breaks off easy, because once it's done its job, and that first initial busting through that hide and hair, once it's through that and it's now opened the way for the rest of the point to keep feeding through, I don't care if that point gets nipped off. It has one job, and that is to lead the way. It does that one job. That's all I need it to do. Then that's when these serrations get to work and just start tearing, absolutely tearing lung tissue and heart tissue and all that stuff up. So that's it. It's nice and sharp. Bring it up here to show it to you. Perfect little Madison, Mississippian era arrow point. True little arrow point right there. Perfect.